Hello and welcome back to another breaking news update. My name is Jimmy Boyd and you are watching Boyd News. I want to thank you so much for tuning in today. I've got some breaking news coming out from the UK to share with you. So I did a report just the other day that the UK's new Prime Minister, his name is Keir Starmer, that's him on the left side of your screen in the suit. He came out at the NATO summit and he told Ukraine or Volodymyr Zelensky that they could target inside of Russian territory using British supplied Storm Shadow missiles. Okay, we did a whole report on this just the other day. Now we've got an update regarding this, and we've actually got a complete 180 coming from Britain's Ministry of Defense. They've been forced to clarify that they have not given permission for Ukraine to use Storm Shadows to strike inside Russia. Okay, so this is very big news. And, we at first I thought Ukraine was going to be able to do this. I thought they were going to start using these British Storm Shadow missiles. I mean, this is the second time that we've heard a top official come out of the UK and say that they can use British Storm Shadow missiles to strike targets in Russian territory. We've heard this before from the former Foreign Secretary, David Cameron from the UK. And then now we're hearing it from UK's new Prime Minister, Keir Starmer. Okay, so now apparently, complete 180, Ukraine can no longer strike inside of Russian territory. So big developments here. And, we're going to have to see at some point, is some countries going to start allowing this? We do know that the Netherlands, from what I was hearing, the Netherlands Prime Minister was stating that the F-16s that they are going to be delivering to Ukraine, they are putting no restrictions on these jets. Okay, so there's already certain countries, Belgium, I think, was going to be another country that was going to do the same thing. I think they were going to be handing over something like 20 F-16 fighter jets to Ukraine at some point as well. Okay, so there are certain countries, particularly in Europe and NATO members as well, that are okay with sending equipment to Ukraine to use to strike inside of Russian territory. Okay, but right now the UK and the US for sure they're not allowing this. Now, I will say I'm going to show you some information here in a little bit that shows that at some point, Washington may give approval for Ukraine to start striking inside of Russia using U.S.-made ATACMS. That may be coming here at some point. I think maybe what they're waiting for is for this war to hit a certain point, maybe where Ukraine is in a desperate situation. And if they become in a desperate situation, or maybe if enough pressure gets put on the United States, maybe they will allow this to happen. So let me go ahead and show you an article here real quick. I'm going to get you some more information regarding this. This is from the Telegraph, but on Yahoo News. UK hasn't allowed Ukraine to use Storm Shadow missiles inside Russia, MoD, which is Ministry of Defense, clarifies. So this came out today, and it says here, Britain is forced to clarify it has not given permission for Ukraine to use Storm Shadows to strike inside Russia in an awkward diplomatic moment for Sir Keir Starmer. Downing Street said on Thursday, government policy had not changed regarding the deployment of long-range missiles, despite comments from the Prime Minister that suggested he was loosening restrictions on how the missiles are used. The British government has allowed Kyiv to fire the missiles against targets in Crimea and mainland Ukraine since they were delivered last year, but has banned the country from using them to hit targets inside Russia. Officials have concerned such a move would escalate the war and could draw the UK into a conflict with Russia. That's obviously a big problem. I mean, that would in a way give Russia a right to strike UK with long-range missiles as well, okay? That would probably draw, for sure, UK into the conflict. And right now, obviously, considering that the UK is a NATO member, that would drag NATO into this potentially as well if they get involved. So many countries, including like Poland, Poland wanting to shoot down some of these missiles too. I was hearing as well that that could be a complete U-turn 180 as well. And Poland may not be shooting these down also because we had, I think it was John Kirby from the United States come out as well and state that there's no permission being given to shoot any of these down, that they don't want any kind of escalation from Russia. So I don't think Poland will be doing that anytime soon as well. But there's many countries that are itching to get involved in the war in Ukraine and allow them as well to, strike inside of Russia. So at some point, this is going to come if this war does not end. Volodymyr Zelensky, the Ukrainian president, who has been meeting world leaders at NATO's 75th anniversary in Washington, announced on Wednesday evening that he had been granted permission to use strategic cruise missiles in Russia. Posting on X, formerly Twitter, Mr. Zelensky shared a photograph of himself and Sir Kier with the caption, "This morning I learned about the permission to use Storm Shadow missiles against military targets in Russian territory. Today we had the opportunity to discuss the practical implementation of this decision." Sources confirm the missile has not been used this year and stressed that Mr. Zelensky would have to seek assurances elsewhere before Ukraine could fire the cruise missiles into Russian territory. They added that these assurances were not a done deal. A senior defense source said the situation was more nuanced than Ukraine's president had suggested. They added that permission to launch the strategic missile into Russia would require a sign-off from 3 countries. 3 countries would have to allow this. So that's the United Kingdom, France, who manufactures a Storm Shadow alongside the UK. And he says it's not going to happen. The source added when asked if Ukraine will fire Storm Shadow into Russia. So most likely, they're not going to be able to do this, okay? They're not going to be able to strike using at least Storm Shadow missiles. I have a big feeling the first piece of equipment that will start striking inside of Russian territory will probably be the F-16s, and then maybe what will follow with that afterwards is possibly the ATACMS, and I'm going to show you some information again right now that talks about that, and we'll have to see if the U.S. allows them to do this, but we know that Ukraine has been calling this for a very long time, calling for the U.S. to allow U.S. ATACMS to strike inside of Russian territory. We've done multiple segments on this talking about this, and I want to show you a couple things here on X real quick. So let's go ahead and take a look at this. Let me get this pulled up here for you. And here we go. Okay, so on Nexta, this is from Nexta on X. The USA does not authorize Ukraine to use ATACMS missiles for deep strikes against Russia, but this may change. This was announced at a briefing by Pentagon's Deputy Press Secretary Sabrina Singh. Singh also said that U.S. Defense Secretary Austin held a telephone conversation with Russian Defense Minister Belousov at the request of the Russian side. Okay, so I wonder if that's because maybe they wanted to assure that the United States was not going to start allowing this, because according to Sabrina Singh here, this is her right here in the photo, she's stating here that this may change, okay? Right now they cannot strike inside of Russian territory, but at some point in the near future, this could change. Okay, so we are definitely getting closer and closer to this potentially happening. I really think personally that Ukraine will not be given permission unless they're in a dire situation, is what I am thinking. Or we might have to see much more, I want to call them terror attacks, like what we saw in the MoD Children's Hospital. We will have to see more attacks like that the West says that, hey, these are terrorist attacks happening inside of Ukraine. Russia needs to be put down. We need to put a stop to these airfields and these, these warplanes that are delivering these bombs all over Ukraine. I think we would have to see much more of that happen, okay, in order for them to really change something right now. So that's what Nexta's reporting here, okay? And then finally, I want to show you this as well. This is from Jurgen Nodit, okay, on X as well. There will be a forceful response to the Russian strike on Okhmadit. The USA and Ukraine are already working on this, says Jake Sullivan, okay? He's the National Security Advisor for the United States, and he's speaking here at the NATO conference in Washington. And he's pretty much telling everybody there will be a response to the Okhmadit, and they are coordinating with the Ukrainians right now to make sure this happens. So take a look at what he has to say.
And we saw the horrific reality of Russia's brutality with the attack on the Children's Hospital in Kyiv just a few days ago. And we are working with the Ukrainians to deal with that attack and to respond with force and vigor. From our own production, and we saw...
So if you notice, he says we are working with the Ukrainians to coordinate with them and respond with force and figure, okay? So what are they going to do to allow Ukraine to respond with force? Okay, so that's what makes me think at some point this may be coming. It's very possible, especially considering that Sabrina Singh came out and said that this may change. Okay, so if they're saying that this may change, most likely it probably will. I don't see them, again, doing this right away, but who knows? I could be completely wrong, and they could do this out of nowhere and say, you know what, start going after the Russian airfields. And I think once we start seeing that, I think Russia will panic, and who knows? We may see some sort of major response from the Russians. because they've come out many times and said that, do not start letting these missiles land all over our territory. But at the same time, we've had multiple HIMARS strikes inside of Russian territory, taking out S-300, S-400 defense systems, air defense systems, excuse me. I've done multiple reports on that. That happened twice in 1 week, just maybe like a month back. So is this going to be possible for Ukraine to do this? Are they going to be able to strike inside of Russian territory without some sort of escalatory response? I also heard from the foreign minister of Poland as well. He was in an interview also discussing this, and he was pretty much questioning. He's like, is that really escalation for Ukraine to start striking these airfields whenever they just got done bombing, when Russia got done bombing a children's hospital in Kiev? Like, how is that really escalation is kind of the question that he's asking. So is it escalation? Is it not escalation? You guys let me know what you think down below. And do you think that very soon the United States could potentially allow Ukraine to use ATACMS ballistic missiles to start striking targets inside of Russian territory, military targets, that is? At least we would hope. And if they start doing this, do you think other countries will start following? Will the UK follow with this? Will France follow with this? Will all these countries that are sending over F-16s to Ukraine, will they all start to do this as well? And then will we start to see like a cascading effect where all these countries are just all of a sudden going to be okay with this, at least a lot more than what are right now? And then all of a sudden we've got lots of missiles and bombs and everything flying into Russian territory, and who knows what can happen from there. I think we can all kind of form our own conclusion on how the war would go from there. But let me know what you think down below. I'm curious to know what you're thinking regarding this topic. So that's going to be it for this update. If you got something out of this, please smash that like button. Also, if you enjoy my content, please consider subscribing down below. Hit the notification bell. That way YouTube can notify you. And with that, I hope you all have a great day. Everybody take care and God bless, and we'll see you in the next one.